Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope it's been a super joyful Advent for you and even more of a joyful Christmas. I don't know if you've been skiing yet this winter. I am not a big skier, but the first time I went skiing was in high school, and it wasn't pretty. This is what happened. I had a group of friends who were like amazing skiers, and they were always like, dude, you gotta come skiing, you gotta come skiing. And I was like, I don't know how to ski, you know? Finally, they convinced me to go with them. So I'm like, okay, I'll go, you know? And I was a decent athlete right back in the day, so I figured I'd be okay, you know? And they started me off nice and easy, right? Bunny slope, like we're going down, and I'm like, okay, I can get this, it's not bad. And then we moved up to the green circle, which is like the next step, and it was a little bit harder, but I was like starting to get the hang of it a little bit. I started to get confident, which is dangerous, right? So then we pop up from the green circle to the blue square, and that was my limit. I mean, that was about as much as I could do. The hills are a lot steeper, there's some jumps in there, a little bit scarier, right? At the end of the night, they were like, dude, we have to go on a black diamond. And I'm like, I don't know what a black diamond is, but it sounds cool as long as it's not harder than a blue square. And my buddies, because they're terrible people, just kidding, were like, let's go, let's go. So we go on a black diamond, and I'll never forget, I mean, I remember this like it was yesterday. We get off of the ski lift and we're like heading towards the slope, right? And if you've ever skied, you know, it's pretty simple, right? You're just getting to the slope, it's just a slow downgrade. But then all of a sudden, like the mountain just dropped off. And I turned to my buddies and I said, oh guys, you know, I think we're on the wrong path here because there's just a cliff in front of us, you know? And they were like, no, that's actually our slope, you know? And I was already too far to be able to like walk back, you know, and what I was gonna do, get back on the chairlift, you couldn't do it. And so I was forced to go down the hill. So I crest over this hill, and literally my skis went like that. I felt like I was going to die. And I start flying down the ski slope, right? And they hadn't turned or really taught me how to stop, so I just kind of was going straight forward, right? And I'm picking up speed and picking up speed and picking up speed and getting more scared and more scared, and my knees are starting to shake, you know? And I'm just terrified, and all of a sudden in front of me, about 10, 15 yards, is a little jump that they purposely put there to hurt people like me, right? And so I hit this jump, right? And I probably was 6 inches off the ground. It felt like I was 30 feet. And my buddy said I'm in the air, right? And all they see is my poles go flying and the skis go flying off, right? And I'm like in the air like a cartoon, like I'm gonna die. And I hit the ground and it was just a disaster. My goggles were on the side of my head and I'm like, oh. And all my buddies come over, right? And they literally still laugh about this to this day every time they see me. They came over to me and they said like, dude, are you okay? And the only thing I could get out, because the wind had been knocked out of me, the only thing I could get out was, send help, right? Like that's it. Now, what does that have to do with Christmas? I think everything, right? And to understand it, like we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. And this is what happened in the beginning. Like, God created us out of love as a pure, generous gift so he would have someone to share his love with, right? And what do? Well, through our first parents, Adam and Eve, we sinned. We didn't trust God. We didn't trust his plan. We didn't trust his love for us. So we ate the apple. And when we ate that apple, that's when sin and suffering and darkness and death entered the world, right? But that's also when the great cry went up. And maybe you've prayed it, right, this Advent, O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel. Sometimes we think of that song as like, you know, a song that you sit by the fire and sing and eat some bonbons. It's a cry. And that cry is this: God, send help. We need you. And so folks, when we walk through the whole Old Testament, right, that the prophets and the Psalms and the major prophets and the law, you know, the first 5 books of the Bible, all of it is God preparing to send help in the most unbelievably extraordinary way. This is how St. Paul says it. In the fullness of time, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to deliver from the law those who were subjected to it. God didn't come with a huge force, a huge army. He didn't come with legions of angels, right? Because he didn't want to scare us back to himself. He comes as this little baby, vulnerable, totally defenseless. Like he couldn't even wipe his own nose, right? He couldn't even get food for himself. Totally vulnerable, totally. He comes as a baby because he wanted to love us back to himself. A simple message for this Christmas. If you've ever wondered, am I loved? Come to Bethlehem. See this baby. If you've ever wondered, does my life mean anything? Come to Bethlehem and see this baby who was born not just for all of humanity, but for you, for you. If you've ever wondered, am I worth living for? Am I worth dying for? Come to Bethlehem and see what God has done for you. He loves you. He loves you so much that he became a baby for you. Poor, helpless, vulnerable, in a stable. God knowing that one day he was going to die on the cross and he would do it all again. And if you were the only person that needed saved on the face of the earth, he would have come for you. Folks, Merry Christmas. Let's just let the joy of this Christmas season fill our hearts and radiate out to everyone we know. God bless.